Once you do this correctly, the barakah in your wealth happens immediately. And I actually mean immediately. This truly made my wealth, where with it, I not only got to escape my 9 to 5 and travel all over the world, I brought my family with me. I went to Umrah. We gave back in a meaningful way. I hope you realize, brother, if you're Muslim right now, just know that you're basically sitting on a mountain of gold the entire time. And you're living thinking your whole life that you're lacking. You literally don't realize the power that you have. So I'm very sorry, but in this video, I'm going to be talking directly to the Muslim people because I want you guys to realize the gold that we're sitting on. The biggest reason why Muslims nowadays are not really on top, it's because we're not using this gold that we've been given. But if you look at Muslims just a few years ago, like in the 18th century in Andalusia, that was the golden age of Islam. Like automatically, if you just existed, you would be abundant and you'd be flourishing. And what is this gold that I'm talking about? It's hiding in plain sight. It's sadaqah. Yes. But can you believe that most Muslims nowadays, none of us are giving properly? And look, I'm not talking about the 2.5% a year that you give in zakah. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how none of us are actually giving intentionally, because none of us are truly getting the benefit of giving. Because I hope you realize, if you actually give properly and you give correctly, financial problems become the easiest thing to solve. Barakah, the easiest thing to get. Stress is going to become non-existent. It's just going to vanish like it happened with me. Peace is going to become consistent without having to take any antidepressants. Look, risk becomes abundant. Your whole life is going to be filled with barakah, and even your wealth is going to be so blessed. Your circle that's around you will be of the best of people without you even having to say anything. They'll realize that you're just an amazing human being. Like, you will just radiate abundance naturally. And even your livelihood, it's going to become so abundant to the point that you literally just manifest amazing opportunities out of nowhere. And then any wealth that comes your way, it's always going to become the best to help you in whatever present moment that you're in. And why am I saying all of this stuff right now? Like, why do I believe all of this stuff right now? It's because this happened to me. Now, before I had anything, when I was a broke university student, I remember there were these terrible floods that happened in my homeland, Pakistan. I wanted to do something to help out, but I barely had money at all. So I did what I could, maybe donated like 10, 20 bucks or something, I don't remember. But I knew I wanted to do something more. And I remembered this Warren Buffett quote. He said that if you don't donate now when you don't have money, you're probably not going to do it even when you do. And that took me on a path to actually do whatever I could do. So I started donating my time towards it, and I arranged, and I live in Vancouver, Canada, and one of the most popular sports here is hockey. And during the summertime, people love to play ball hockey. So I didn't even know a thing or two about ball hockey. I started putting together a ball hockey tournament, and we got 60, 70 people. Like, we had like 5, 6 teams. Maybe more. I think maybe we had like 100 people come. And I got everyone to pay $30 plus whatever else they want to donate after that amount as well. And I ended up raising a few $1,000s. And I remember this hadith from Sahih al-Bukhari. And it states, the one who spends in the way of God, his wealth increases. Now, what unfolded in my life in the following years was nothing short of seeing the barakah being unleashed in my life. And if you have any doubt of the type of impact that uh, sadaqah can make in your life, just reflect a little bit. So after that happened, and I donated money towards the ball hockey tournament, and I arranged that whole event, and I spent all this time making this thing happen. I didn't have the best marks graduating out of university. Okay, I didn't have the worst, but I also didn't have the best marks. What ended up happening was just unreal. So not only did I graduate with a pretty good degree, I ended up getting a six-figure job that very few people get. There were only like 2 to 3 jobs like that available in the city of Vancouver, or 500 people applied for that job. Fresh finance graduates. I got that job. I don't even know how I got it. I didn't have the best marks. I wasn't the best looking. I wasn't the most charming, but it ended up happening, subhanAllah. But it didn't stop there, okay? I did that equity research position for about a year, but I got laid off when the economy was in a terrible position. Now you might think, okay, Abdul, how is that even like a good thing? You ended up getting laid off. Well, this is where the miracles started happening for me, okay? SubhanAllah. This job was growing very slowly, okay? And I had Excel spreadsheet of like 100 different business ideas, but I wasn't really acting on them like in a meaningful way. So I got laid off. And when I got laid off, I had a few months of EI, employment insurance, where like the government supports you. And I saw that as my launching time. I had a few months to making it work. Otherwise, the paychecks from the government were going to stop. I was basically on welfare for a few months. That was my time to start my business, which is something I always wanted to do. So because I got laid off, because I had that like a few month period to just launch my business, I got into the online marketing world. And subhanAllah, after that, I've never looked back. My friends that were in investment banking, in a similar position, they just had no time freedom. They had no time barakah, right? They were making six figures, sure, but after taxes, they would get taxed like 40%, right? Wiping out most of their money. To this day, I have friends that have been in the industry for about a decade. They make multiple six figures, but after taxes, it's not that much. And they barely have enough time to see their family. I was working 12 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week, didn't have any energy for my family. But Alhamdulillah, because I got laid off within the first year, I was able to shift into a much better industry, a much better world. And it was actions like that that really helped me out in a tough pinch, right? Subhanallah, like the barakah is not just about the money that you see in your bank balance, but it is what you also get to do with it, what you get to experience with it, the time that you get from it. Alhamdulillah, I've been able to travel for the last 7, 8 years, 90 days out of the year with my family. And no one that I know with that investment banking, equity research career, corporate career, can say that they were able to do that. But this principle of giving sadaqah doesn't stop here. There's a pattern that you're going to see that is so important to notice. Once someone starts making money, and this is where so many entrepreneurs fail, because once they make money and they have money in the bank account, they literally fall in love with seeing a certain bank balance in their bank account. And this leads them to becoming more cheap. And shaitan gets in their head saying, hey, well, I've already donated tens of thousands of dollars. Now I don't need to donate anymore. Now, as Muslims, we need to remember that charity does not take away from our wealth, it multiplies it. So there was a time after a few years, right? My business is making millions of dollars. Alhamdulillah, it's doing well. And I'm making my regular donations and whatnot. Now, something really bad happens, right? Interest rates go up, the economy starts going down. This is a few years ago. I had a huge loss in my business and a huge cash crunch during this time. I lost a few $1 million in business because of the economy, poor management, and terrible business partnerships that I was stuck in that was just sucking the life energy out of me. Okay. I even had to lay off over 100 people in my company. And to make things worse, all my cash was tied up in long term investments. This was the only time in my life that I woke up. Well, I did wake up. I couldn't go to sleep the whole night. And at about 3 o'clock at night, I just got up because my chest was hurting and I could feel my heart beating. And, this is during a time where, like, I'm in toxic business partnerships. I've lost millions of dollars. I'm worried about where everything that I've built is going. I've had to let go of so many people. I had a huge cash crunch. I had anxiety. I couldn't go to sleep. I got up at like 2, 3 o'clock at night to go to the hospital. I thought I was having a heart attack. And I called up my mamu because it was so late at night. My mom was in Pakistan, so he was the only one that was awake, right? I called him and I talked to him. And he's like, Beta, just like read this dua. And he sent me some duas on WhatsApp. Read this dua, give some sadaqah, and you're going to feel better. So I read some dua right away. I went back to sleep. And after I got up, I looked at my bank account. Now, despite having the least amount of cash that I've had in my bank account in years, my uncle reminded me of this Islamic principle. And as hard as it was, I knew I had to give it away. Because Allah tells us in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, He uses the metaphor, the example of those who spend in their wealth in the way of Allah is like a seeded grain which grows 7 spikes. In each spike is 100 grains. Subhanallah. And so separating myself mentally, and this is very difficult for like people to do in this day and age, and it's a lost Islamic practice. Separate yourself from what was physically in your bank account. Whatever number shows, I knew there was a number, but there was a lot of stress in my life, and like there was the lowest amount. I knew how I had to multiply it because the Quran told us how to multiply it. I took that money and I somehow managed to make the largest donation I've ever made in my life, wiping out almost all my cash. I barely had money to pay my bills for like longer than that month. And subhanAllah, what happened next was nothing short of a miracle. That's why they call him Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And this is where I learned the true meaning of barakah. Barakah that goes beyond wealth. Now, subhanAllah, what happened next, man? It almost makes me cry. Because in the coming months, not only did my business recover and I started having more success than ever before, alhamdulillah, but a series of events occurred that wiped out all the toxic business relationships I had in my life that was just deeply stuck inside, right? I had these business partnerships with people with, not only were they like not Muslim, but like beyond that, they didn't have any like values. They weren't God-fearing individuals. They didn't have principles. And I launched these ventures with them just because of the opportunity. And some of these companies made millions of dollars, but I literally walked out of those relationships because there were things that happen that can't get into, maybe because of legal reasons as well. And so I'll just say it actually. Some of them were stealing from the company. And when I saw that, I just walked away. And Allah replaced them. All those toxic relationships that I went through during that time of my life. So Allah replaced them with my brothers and my best friend, my people, my tribe that I would take a bullet for and they would take a bullet for me. Now, Alhamdulillah, after that dark night where I was getting anxious, I felt like I needed to go to the hospital. Just the turnaround was in a matter of months. The transformation was unbelievable. To this day, me and my brothers just sit and just say Alhamdulillah because there's nothing more to say. Not only did we become more financially successful, but for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. I felt contentment, and I felt insulated from the backstabbers. Alhamdulillah, there was mental abundance, financial abundance, better relationships, no more anxiety, and a natural attraction for of amazing people. These days, I'm speaking with Khabib's manager because we're talking about launching a brand with him. Now, if you're watching this, you're either an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, and you're wondering how to deploy Islamic principles in your life. I've been in the game for long enough to see that some of the richest people are the most alone, are the most miserable. They're looking over their shoulders. They're worried about backstabbers. And some of these people say, more money, more problems. But Islam shows us a lot of wisdom. The Quran and Hadith show us the way. And this is, to remember giving sadaqah, to give even when it is most difficult, because that's when it counts the most. Remember, true barakah goes beyond just numbers in your bank account. And if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next videos. Assalamu alaikum.